My date of birth is 11/10/33. I was born in Tontitown. My parents were John Franco and Teresa Dupo Franco. My brothers and sisters, Primo Franco, Mary Franco, Tom Franco, Rachel Franco, Lou Franco, Connie Franco, and myself, Roy Franco. My family worked on a farm. They had a farm. Well, we also had cattle, and we had 8 acres of grapes. That's about all we done was milk cows, and we had grapes. Well, the whole thing, just had milk cows and helped milk cows and had the grapes. Well, I never was too much of a gardener. I always went to town and bought my stuff. I worked at Ball Canning Company 31 years. That's what they made tin cans. Well, what I done was I worked on a can line, and then from there I went to driving a lift truck for probably 20 years on a lift truck. And then I went to the sweepers. I kept the floors clean, all that. Well, the first was going into town was in Tontitown, was at the Tontitown Mercantile Store, and then also we had a John Millar store. It was kind of a grocery store, and it was just located down here about a half a mile. And they had groceries, bread, meat, and whatever, you know. And they had feed also too. They had feed. We really eat at home. Back years ago, we just eat at home. We didn't go out to all these restaurants and eat. We butchered our own hogs, and we made all our beef and everything. We butchered them here. That's what we just eat here at home. Well, my folks done all the cooking, so that goes. And of course, we help, you know, peel potatoes or whatever, you know, just regular dinner meals. We made our own spaghetti, made our own sauce. Because years ago we didn't have the money to buy all this stuff. We had to make our own. The first place we lived was down here about a mile and a half north. And then the second place was right here. This is the other place I lived. Well, years ago, it was terrible. The house was terrible. I mean, we papered the walls of the ceiling with newspapers. And this kid would sit around the chairs and see if we could pick out a word up there and see if we could find it. But we papered our house with newspapers. Oh, because we wanted to cover up some of the cracks. Well, it was, I enjoyed it very much. Of course, back then we had the nuns, you know, they was pretty strict, but yet they had a reason to be. But no, we had fun going to school. We had recess and all this, you know, so it was fun. Well, I remember going to school about 9 o'clock in the morning and we got out at 3:30. And I liked it, just learning Taldo, Edward Penalto, Barbara Rookie, and Leonard Penalto. Most everybody here in Tontitown, all of it, in my age, went to school here. Well, I had Sister Penalto, Sister Xavier, Sister Quintilla, Sister Bernadine. Well, I don't know that I had a favorite or not, but I had to like them all, whether I wanted to or not, because my dad, he was the boss. He'd tell me what to, but I always liked the nun. Well, my family went to church here in Tontitown. Well, it was more of a family deal back then, you know. Everybody got along, and they all enjoyed going to church and being quiet in church and all that. Well, we had to study some of the prayers, so that when we got up to the communion rail, they'd ask these questions, and we had to answer these questions. Well, when I finished school, I went on the farm. I was farmed, and then of course in later years, I went to work at Ball Canning Company, which back then it was Heakin Can Company. When I first went to work out there, and then of course the last place down there was Ball Canning Company. But from the farm, I went to town, went to Springfield to work. I don't know if that ain't fun or not. Because we didn't do much running around back then. I mean, as far as running around Tontitown, because there wasn't nothing here to do. Well, we used to go to the movie down there on Spring. And what we'd do is, we'd go up, and there was about 4 of us kids. They would meet up here at this T. And of course, the movie, the Elm Springs, was down here, at least like I told you, I'll go down about 1.25 miles. And then we'd all get together and go down to the movies. But they had the movie under a tent up here at the old school at Elm Springs. And then we'd go down and watch these movies, these scary movies, and we'd come back. Well, I had to walk home from this T on down to my house and we'd watch these scary movies, and these scared me to death. And I used to take my shoes off and walk down the road. I was afraid to make any noise. Well, you had this little ball you would throw down halfway to the court, a little past the court, and then they had the striped balls and they had the plain balls. And we'd play in partners. I may have the striped balls, they may have the plain balls. So what we do is the one that got the closest to this little ball got the point. And we played, and if there were just 2 of us playing, if I went down there and had the closest point, then this other guy had to pitch the ball, see if he could get closer than I would. And then we kept playing till we may have 1 point, 2 points. If we got all 4 of them closer than the other 4, we got 8 points. Well, years ago when they played out in the yard. They didn't have no bocce court back then. They just played out in the yard. Grass and all, if there's any grass, they just played out there in the yard. That's probably about all they knew was Italian back then, because it was an Italian community and they all spoke Italian. So, I mean, when they get out there, if they made 8 points, they'd call it secco, and that was in Italian. If they played 1 ball, it was uno, and and so on. But they always spoke Italian. I mean, if they'd ask one another questions, they'd be in Italian. And whoever they asked, if they knew the answer, they'd speak back in Italian. But years ago, it was all Italian. And see, my grandmother, when she was in bed at 11 years, my dad's mother, if I didn't go by and visit my grandmother when I went by there, my dad would get on to me, said I need to stop and see his mother. Well, when I'd stop to see her, I'd go in there and I'd say good morning, if it was morning, And she'd say, huh? And I'd say good morning, and she'd say, huh? And she wouldn't ask me to say it in Italian. And that's how I learned the biggest part of my Italian from her, because she would not answer you if you didn't say it in Italian. I mean, that was it. Well, they was good people. I mean, they taught quite a bit of one another, and they helped one another, and they just, as a family, they was just good people. They played as morta, which was an Italian game with their hands. Like if they'd sit out there, there's 2, and if your partner had 2, that was 4. And then the next time shit again, they had 1, that was just 1, and the next, if your partner had 1, that was 2. And that's what they done, played morta. That's what they called it. Now, why, I don't know that. They played up here at the, what they call the luncheonette, which is right across from the Venetian Inn. They had a baseball field right there. And they played bocce, and they played every Sunday morning. They'd go up there, there'd be so many on each team, and they'd play baseball. They'd play like 9 innings of baseball. And then they'd all disappear and go home. Well, of course, I remember my oldest brother, Primo, Fred Chola, Gus Chola, Gabriel, Henry Bill, and Models of Sidewalk. I remember that old man played. When I was a kid, all they had was a Ferris wheel and this and that. We had the dinners, which didn't amount to very much because it wasn't very many people. And the rides they had, of course, back then the rides were only about 10 cents. But then back 10 cents was a lot of money back then. Well, it's a lot bigger now than it was. We got the dinners now that are way out, I mean, there's several thousand people that eat at the dinners. And it's a lot bigger. Of course, the price is a lot bigger too. And of course, we got people come from all over to the Grape Festival every year because it's just a once-a-year deal. And it used to be, well, it used to be one day, and then it got up to 3 days, and now they got 3 days of Grape Festival and 2 days of armband, but they only have 3 days of meals. It's a serve meals. Well, I worked in the halls, swamping, cleaning up tables, this and that. And I was on the yard committee picking up trash and stuff. We had about 15, 20 kids that come in, and we'd walk around there with them, just kind of supervise them. And they pick up trash, clean up the grounds, and then we give them a ride on the Ferris wheel or something. That's what we give them for cleaning up. I had 2 granddaughters. Cecily was one of them, and Caroline. Of course, then I had cousins. Virginia Franco. What I can remember is a lot of hard work. They used to go out and sell tickets. If they gave away a pickup or a car, they sold tickets. They went from town to town selling tickets. And of course, then the parish here in Tontitown would give us so many tickets for us to either buy or sell. Yeah, I've had fun time going to the Grape Festival. We'd go up and we'd get to visit with friends that we don't ever see. And maybe eat lunch with them or something, just have dinners outside. Well, Halloween, we used to go out trick or treat. And we go to somebody's house, wear these masks, somebody's house, and they'd have to identify who you was. And they had candy, they give out candy. And that was for Halloween. Then, of course, Easter, what we done was we had Easter eggs. We'd color Easter eggs and hide them out in the yard, and the rest of the kids used to go out and try to find them. Well, we lived right next door over here, but then we bought the old hotel in Tontitown, and we stayed in it for a while. But when we bought this farm here, they didn't have no fences around here, and back then we had the horse and buggies back then. We didn't have a tractor years ago. We had the horse and buggies, and me and my 2 sisters would take the horses back down where she used to live, down about a mile and a quarter where I told you. Of the evening, when they got done, we got out of school, come in and took the horses, went back, and then in the morning we'd saddle them up, bring them back up here. And then they worked the rest of the day, we went to school. But anyway, we owned the old hotel down here. Of course, it wasn't in use, like I told you a minute ago, it wasn't in use, but we tore it down. We tore it completely down. It was a pretty big hotel. But it wasn't in use, it was all bad shape, we bought it. And they only had 4 lots up there. That's where this hotel was, there's 4 lots. But I forget just the whole thing about it. But all I remember is we lived in this old hotel for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I guess, before we built up here. I kind of met her through my dad and her dad. My dad knew her dad, and then he found out that he had these 2 daughters. And he thought maybe I should go salon. So I did. And I went to this drugstore, and there she was, working in the drugstore there. And I just got started talking to her. And then the first thing you know, we started dating. Well, I'd have to tell them that first thing I wouldn't be living here if it wasn't good. That was number one. And then the people in Tontitown were very nice people. They got along fine. And it was just a nice place to live because everybody done their thing here, and it was just kind of more or less kind of a get-together like. My favorite thing about Tontitown? It's a good place to live. The people are very friendly. Of course, back then they had a lot of people moving in, but they were still real friendly. And that's the thing I liked about living in Tontitown. We was just close people here.